back for another book review. Today we're talking about this one. So this is Finding the Fool, A Tarot Journey to Radical Transformation by Meg Jones Wall. So this book is different than every other kind of tarot book, but in a good way. So her take on the tarot is something I have wanted for most of the pagan things. We don't need gender at all. Like, if you want to have it, cool, but it's not like the top priority. So she removed it. Oh yeah. It's so good. So there's no gender. There's no, oh, well, if you pull the Page of Swords, it means that it's a young boy in your life. And if you pull the King of Wands, then there's an, like, matured man in your life. No. Screw that. Absolutely no. There's just no gender at all. And it's awesome. Why can't we have more of this? Because, like, truly, it's just, it's not necessary. Also, she talks about the cards and not the imagery, because, shocker, it's not helpful when you move into other decks. There are plenty that just go on their own journey, and so you have to rely on that book. And like all of the training books and like the informational books rely on the Rider Waite, and that's it. That's the only thing. The imagery is very standard and, again, very gendered. And so she's like, no, let's not do that, because like we don't need to have the very cis het situations. And that also, like, you know, the devil doesn't need to be the Protestant devil imagery. Like, we don't need that. It could actually be something else. And I loved that. It was so good. So each of the, like, cards are discussed a little differently. So the major, because why would we ever do the same thing per card, right? Like the major and the minor, why would it be the same? But the major goes through the zodiacs, numerology, and then it also talks about like what that card kind of means. And for each of those three, there are journal prompts. And a lot of it is tying back to your own natal chart, which is fascinating. So it's like, where is Taurus in your chart? Like, how does it relate? How, like, really interesting ways to look at these cards. And the numerology side of it, super fascinating. Then you get to the minor and it changes. Instead of journal prompts for all of these sections, it's just one at the end. And then it goes over still numerology, but now instead of the zodiac and like astrology and stuff, now it's just the element that it's associated to. And then a little bit at the end on like spreads and stuff. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 star. It is definitely a different take, and I love that. I love that we just hucked everything that is gender out the window. I try and do that a lot in my own craft, just because, like, the gender binary is not my favorite. I'm not non-binary by any means, but just in the craft it seems really stupid because it doesn't matter at all, and I don't love how hyper-focused it is on the stereotypical things. Really, for being honest, it's about your reproductive organs for the most part. Like, oh my god, guess what? Wands represent dicks, and cauldrons are a uterus, and I'm just not a fan of that. I've complained about it for years. And I also don't love that, you know, the queens are always on only for these things, and it always represents this, like, particular female person, because, like, how would that apply when there's non-binary folks? And, like, also doesn't apply most of the time, because, like, you can have a very masculine person that is not a man, you know, and vice versa, and someone who walks right in the middle. Like, it's just dumb and very old. So I was so glad that she was like, nah, let's not do that. Let's actually just relate it to you, the person, every time. Because really, that's how tarot should be. You, the person. Doesn't need to represent a specific kind of person coming into your life. I've always hated when books do that. Like, oh, well, if this pulls up in a reading, then it means that a young boy is going to come into your life, or an old woman will be crossing your path. Like, nah. Thank you for getting rid of that. I just wish it had stayed the same. I was loving the journal prompts. And then, of course, you get to the minor, and it's like, me. Like, it's still there, but it's not as much. And it didn't feel as impactful as for the major, which was a bummer. And then there was no conclusion. So it's like, you're just tootling along, and it's like, hey, the end, bye. Because the end didn't feel as solid, honestly. It was like, okay. Like, the spreads are not my favorite by any means. Because, like, here's an example you have 2 cards. This is all of your options of what those 2 cards could be. I guess it's fine, but honestly, that's like how I take notes, and then I would fix that up. And also, like, I'm like, why? This is not helpful. You tell me 4 cards, and then you list all of the things. I just don't know. It's not my favorite way that it was set up, to say the least. But I did still, again, I really appreciate the lack of gendering in it. I think that's really cool, and not having imagery. Because, like, as I'm reading through that, I was thinking about my own deck, and my current favorite tarot deck that I'm working with, I don't know that it has men, to be honest. I have yet to find a dude on any card. So, I haven't used it a whole lot. I only got it at Yule. But it's the Cozy Witch Tarot. I don't know that there's men, to be honest. I haven't like flipped through every single card. I charged it, and then I've just been using it. And so it's all shuffled. But the cards that I have gotten are always women. Various kinds of women. Different shapes, sizes, colors. It's awesome. But I don't know that there's dudes. So, like, it's very helpful to not have that kind of vibe of, like, oh, well, you have to have the man be this one and the chick is this one. I'm so glad, because my deck doesn't do that at all. And it's very, like, just super chill. Like, I just barely got the 7 of Cups. And it's just some chick sitting in front of a cabinet with, like, random cups. And it's a vibe. I love it. It's my favorite deck, I think, ever. Like, there's other ones that are very whimsical and, like, fantasy vibe. And this is just cozy real witches vibe. And I love it. It's so good. And it's got a little snippet at the bottom of each card. That is my lifesaver, because it summarizes what the card means. And it's in a very, like, it's a sentence and, like, just a casual, like, if you were hanging out with, like, some of these tarot people who would just, like, on the fly be like, oh, it's like this. And it just tell it like it is to you. It has that on the card. It's so good. The only thing, it's a guidebook, doesn't believe in capitalization, which bothers me so much, but I try to ignore it because I love the card so much. Like, the back of the card has a to-go cup of coffee. I mean, it is my soul. But yeah, this is one of those books I would love to use with it to know my cards better. But yeah, so overall, I definitely liked it. I wish there was a conclusion. I really love when you wrap up and say goodbye to your reader officially. That's cool. But overall, I really, really do like this. I do plan to eventually buy me a copy and work through it and get to know my cards very well, because I feel like this and the Living Tarot are 2 very good resources to learn the tarot. Like, I still think the Living Tarot is like the starting point, but this is like a way to add new layers to it and just to yourself in general. So I would highly recommend this to anyone who is into tarot, especially if you are still a beginner. I think it's a really good place to start. But overall, I mean, even advanced, it's got stuff for you to journal about and learn more about, and not rely so heavily on just Rider-Waite imagery and stuff. So, and like removing the gender, I think is really, really cool. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. If you missed my last video, I published a book. If you want to check it out, it is now available. Cycles of the Moon is my 9th book. It is my 4th Witchcraft book, and I really hope you might check it out. It is cheaper than my other ones. It's kind of a discounted price because it's a small book. So if you want a small book, oh, I got you covered. It's so tiny. So if you want to check it out, it is linked down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. Your audiobook is coming. I edited my chapters of the day, so I've got through chapter 4 done. So intro all the way 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh yeah, making progress. So it's getting there. It's coming soon. And of course, until next time, thank you so much for coming along, and blessed be.